Now it's time for a listener question in But Your Emails. Back us on Patreon. We could be answering your question next time. This week, a listener who wishes to remain anonymous. She was responding to an exchange on Twitter about Labour's plan to put VAT on private school fees. This apparently would give 7% of the population who send their children to private school a good reason not to vote Labour. I am interested, the listener writes, in the assumption that everyone who went to private school will oppose the application of VAT to private school fees. I went to private school and I have 2 children in private school. The application of VAT to my kids' school fees will make them much more expensive. Yet I'm still supportive of this policy and still intend to vote Labour at the next election. I'm fortunate enough to have a good income, but I will still have to forego a few things to be able to keep my children in their current school. I'm genuinely willing to do that. I am happy to pay more in tax, however that is levied, in order to have a fairer, more equal society. Am I really as rare a voter as Mr. Sayers, that's Freddie Sayers of Unheard, seems to assume?
I think they are a rare beast in that they're very happy to pay and don't mind the fact that their extra fees are going to the rest of us and educating children in state schools. Well, thank you for that to the writer. But I don't think that they're rare in that they're willing to absorb it. Almost nobody that I know in my social circle who sends their children to private school is going to drop out. Because, first of all, these people can definitely afford it. I have some friends whose partners are in the city and whatnot. The money is there. Their children are settled. They have made this decision that that's the right place for them. And above all, your child's happiness comes above everything else. So if they are happy in that school, if you know that most people who can afford private school in this country at the moment with the fees, the size of the fees, can definitely absorb the extra and will do so.
What drives me nuts about private school lobbyists is they always talk about, they talk about aspirational, working class families who are making sacrifices to send their kids to private school. And I'm sure that they exist. But they are not your median private school parent who is absolutely at the limits of their, budget, and that this would throw them out of the private school system. You look at the fees, you look at the people that go to them, you look at the people that come out of them and into politics. And the aspirational working class kids are vastly outweighed by the very rich kids.
Absolutely. And, it's a small amount to a lot of those people, this 20%. Just because for the rest of us, when you're looking at the figures, it's a huge amount, doesn't mean it isn't trifling to, I would imagine, the majority of parents. Now, it doesn't mean they're not going to be angry about it, but they aren't going to take their kids out as a result.
Ros, Freddie Sayers' argument in this Twitter thread, which I saw at the time, was that actually, I think you'd be reading too much from Matt Goodwin, said that now Labour was the party of the of the wealthy, and that this would really hit the Labour vote. Now, are you convinced that this 7% of the population who send their kids to private school is particularly red, and that this would therefore cost Labour a significant number of votes?
No, I'm not. I think this is a winner of a policy. I doubt that it will make much difference. There is, of course, the argument that we've already referred to, that thousands of children will be forced out of their private schools and forced to go to state schools, and that even more importantly, this will be a burden on the state schools that they won't be able to absorb, etc., etc. But as Hannah says, I think that's extremely unlikely. It is great that there are some people willing to pay more. I heard James O'Brien make the same point yesterday. He sends his kids to a private school, and he was saying he was happy to pay more. As a parent of kids at a state school, it is depressing to hear how many people on the left feel unable to send their kids to state schools. I hope that if they do improve under a Labour government, they will feel able to change their minds.
I think feel unable is rather generous.
Well,
a choice has been made, and I'm sure sometimes it felt like the only choice that could be made, and sometimes I think it was a choice made because they had the money and it seemed nice. Yeah,
I think there are a variety of reasons. And whenever I bring up this subject on social media, there are always people who say, I'm sorry, I felt I had no choice. The local schools were just too terrible. And, different people have different circumstances, sure, and perhaps we shouldn't judge. But it would be great. The greatest thing you can do for state schools, as well as paying taxes for them, is to send your kids there, because it is ambitious parents like you who help make them better.